everybody. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to create in-text citations using APA style. Now, before you create your in-text citations, I highly recommend already having created your APA style references. It is so much easier to create your in-text citations after you have already created the reference. So if you haven't done that, please do that already. You can check out any one of my videos where I have discussed this topic in detail. All right, so now let's jump into creating an in-text citation. All right, so first of all, there are two basic types of in-text citations. One is a parenthetical, which goes at the end of your sentence and is in parentheses, and that is why we call it parenthetical. The other is at a sentence level, so you are going to include the citation inside the sentence as part of the wording of the sentence. So this might sound a little confusing, but we'll talk about it later. Now, the type of information that you are going to need is all going to be found in your reference. So that is why I highly recommend getting that information first and creating that reference first so that your in-text citations are easy peasy. Now, for the in-text citation, you are going to need the author's last name, the year of publication, and maybe a page number if you are using a direct quotation. So let's look at a sample. So if you are looking at a sentence level citation, that is going to look like the first one where you say, according to Moore, 2020, and a page number at the end. So a few things that you notice is that we are using the author's last name. So we are not saying like, according to Charlotte Moore in her article about blah, 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 in the book, blah, blah, blah. We are just using the author's name. You do not have to have all that other information because the reader can find that information in your citation, and it's just going to make your writing a lot more boring if you include all of that. So we're just going to use the author's last name to point them to the reference. The next thing in an APA style reference is you're going to have the year of publication in parentheses immediately following the author's last name. That lets the reader know, for example, if you have multiple works by the same author, they know to go to the one from 2020 and not the one from 1992, right? The last thing you note is the page number. In this case, this was a direct quotation, so we have to include the page number that that quotation is from. If the article does not have page numbers, you want to use a paragraph number. So you would just write para 2, for example. Also to note is that for one page, such as 100, you want 1P. If you have multiple pages, you are going to do P, period, 100 to 120, right? So those are your sentence level in-text citations. Now, the parenthetical citation is you're going to have your sentence, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the sentence, you're just going to have your parentheses with the author's last name, comma, the year of publication. Now, as you can see, I did not use any quotations in this, so I do not have to include a page number. All right, so let's take this opportunity to look at a real life example from one of my sources on my reference page. So I'm going to pull up my reference page as well as my source. All right, so on the left-hand side here, you see my COVID-19 source talking about coping with stress during the pandemic, and you see my reference on the right-hand side. So I'm just going to go ahead and enter down a little bit so that you can still see the reference. So as I'm looking at my source, there could be tons of things that stand out to me, but I'm going to go ahead and go with this bolded bit. And it is really going to be bad if you just copy and paste that. That is called plagiarism, stealing other people's ideas. It's just not very nice. Okay, so what we are going to do is, first of all, we're going to put these in quotations to show that this is not my idea. Another thing you may have noticed is I deleted the period at the end because this is no longer where the sentence ends. So now we have this sentence. And one thing I could do is just add a citation at the end, which would be your parenthetical citation. So I would write out the name of Centers for Disease Control and Prevention so that my reader can go down and find that in my references. And of course, I'm going to put 2020 down there. And then after my citation, I'm going to hit period because now that is the end of my sentence. I'm just going to go ahead and unbold this and also get rid of the hanging indent. There we go. So now we have this, but this also doesn't work very well because you don't want to just plop a quotation in the middle of your sentence. Oftentimes, if you don't have anything else to add to the quotations, you don't want to put a parenthetical citation. You'll probably want to do a surface level citation. So at that point, I would go according to the Centers for Disease Control. And you see that I had Centers of Disease Control and 2020. Now, one thing that might pop up is, especially with something like this, where I don't want to be writing Centers for Disease Control and Prevention over and over and over and over again. What I'm going to do is just after I write that, I'm going to put parentheses CDC. And now for the rest of my essay, I can just write CDC, even in my citations, and that'll be totally fine. So now I'm just going to delete that. And if you don't have the parenthetical citation, you want that period to be inside the quotation marks. Okay, so now I have a properly cited in-text citation, and this citation will lead the reader back to my references so that they can read the original site. All right, so thank you so much for joining me today as we talked about in-text citations. Hopefully it's not as confusing as it was before. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you.